Have you ever watched someone who seemingly has it all together suddenly self-destruct? Culturally, we brush this off as burnout, but clinical data tells a much darker story. Human sanity operates on a strict mathematical framework. There are exactly 3 invisible forces holding your psychological structure together right now. Ignore even one of them, and a complete behavioral collapse is a guarantee. Let's look at the mechanics of why.
The Austrian psychotherapist Alfred Adler built his framework of individual psychology around this idea. He argued that human beings do not experience reality in the abstract. Instead, we experience reality through the subjective meanings we assign to it. Adler observed that every person is born by 3 inescapable physical and biological constraints. It is through how we answer the challenges of these constraints that we reveal our deeply held personal interpretation of the meaning of life. We understand a person's subconscious worldview by observing their approach to these 3 specific tasks. The first constraint is environmental. We are physically confined to the surface of the earth and must rely entirely on its natural resources to exist. To ensure individual survival and the continuation of humanity, we must develop our bodies and our minds. This is the task of occupation. It requires finding a sustainable career or way of life that addresses the limitations of our physical environment. A person's career choices and their daily struggles at work show whether they are contributing to human survival or retreating from the limits of reality.
Think about someone you know who is an absolute workaholic. They are aggressively climbing the corporate ladder, making excellent money, but their phone never rings on a weekend, and their dating life is a wasteland. Society praises them for their grind. But let's look at the actual data of human fulfillment. Alfred Adler argued that the logic of life comes down to navigating exactly 3 inescapable constraints: occupation, social communities, and love. When someone heavily over-indexes on their career, it's rarely just pure ambition. It is almost always a calculated retreat. They use the occupation task as an emotional fortress to completely hide from the terrifying vulnerability required in friendships and romantic intimacy. They aren't too busy for people. They are actively running from them. When you understand life as a balance of these 3 distinct metrics, a person's extreme success in one area often reveals their deepest fear in another.
The second constraint is physical frailty. No human exists as an isolated entity because the individual is inherently weak and vulnerable. Facing life's problems completely alone leads to failure. Without the support of a group, the individual cannot survive the pressures of the natural world. This creates the task of social fellowship, the mandate to find our place within the human community. Cooperating with others and sharing the benefits of partnership secures both individual and collective welfare. An individual's friendships and their capacity to cooperate demonstrate how they manage the burdens of existence. The third constraint is a biological reality. Humanity is composed of 2 sexes. The preservation of our species depends on the relationship and the adjustment between men and women. This is the sexual task, which requires us to navigate the challenges of love, marriage, and human intimacy. Adler argued that human problems fall into one of these 3 realms: occupational, social, or sexual. The quality of a person's romantic partnership reveals whether they view life as a shared endeavor or a selfish pursuit.
Social communities and love. These require a high degree of what Adler called social interest, the willingness to contribute to others without an immediate, guaranteed return. Why do so many people fail here? Because intimacy requires vulnerability, and vulnerability triggers our deepest subconscious feelings of inferiority. When someone ghosts a healthy relationship or perpetually isolates themselves from a community, it is almost never because they simply prefer being alone. It is a clinical defense mechanism. They are eliminating the risk of being rejected by rejecting the world first. They construct a false sense of independence to mask a crippling fear of not being enough. This structural imbalance is the root cause of almost all toxic human behavior.
Using these 3 behavioral lenses together reveals the meaning an individual assigns to life. This radar chart maps a defensive profile, an individual struggling in occupation, friends, and love. These failures are walls protecting against harm. Contrast this with a courageous profile that thrives in career, connections, and intimacy. Expanding across all axes indicates a different logic. Success in these tasks suggests the individual views life not as a threat to be avoided, but as a creative mission. Personality expresses itself through the actions we take every single day. A healthy meaning of life is defined by courage, an interest in others, and a commitment to contributing to human welfare through work, friendship, and love.
Modern culture calls managing these three constraints work-life balance and treats it like a simple time management issue. But clinically, it is a psychological survival metric. If you fail to distribute your energy evenly across your occupation, your communities, and your relationships, the entire psychological structure collapses under the pressure. But what does that collapse actually look like in real time? What are the exact behavioral red flags of a high performer who is quietly breaking down? To see the clinical data on how to spot psychological burnout before it destroys your life, click right here. Of almost all toxic human behavior,